What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about the iPhone XS in 2022. Should you buy this phone? And I absolutely love this phone in 2022. It's my personal favorite iPhone. We talked about the XR, I think, a few days ago, and I like that phone, but I prefer this one more. So I prefer the XS over the XR, over even the new SE. 2022. I prefer this phone. I think this is Apple's best budget option right now, and I'm going to explain my reasoning for that. So first off, we need to talk about the pricing, because as always with these older iPhones, the pricing is just sweet and it just keeps getting better as the years go on. So you can find the cheapest for a XS is $257. We saw that the XR was actually kind of close to this price, around $236. But the XS, it does have a few benefits over the XR, which I do really like. So we need to talk about one of the most important things with the XS is actually this display. So the display is much better than on the XR. So what makes this display stand out? What makes it so much better than the XR? So it is actually a full 1080p plus display, right? And it's 5.8 inches, but instead of the XR's IPS panel, this is actually a OLED panel. So it's a Super Retina OLED panel, HDR10, Dolby Vision, and then it is 458 for the PPI. So it just has better specs than the XR around the board as far as the display quality goes. So not only do videos look better on the XS, but also if you're into editing photos, it's just more color accurate. It just looks more accurate to me. So that's definitely one thing that I like. And the XR's display is a 720p plus display. Like I said, this is a 1080p display, so everything just looks better to me on this display, and colors just look better. And also you could take advantage of applying dark wallpapers since it's an OLED display to save battery life. So that's my favorite thing about this phone, is the display is definitely great, especially at such a cheap price. Now the next thing about this phone that I like is it actually has a dual camera setup instead of the single camera setup that the XR and the SE 2022 has. So when you go into camera, you'll see that you have a telephoto lens. You can do the 2x. Basically, you know, you get your zoom shots, you get a more portrait type of shot going, the more blurry effect with the background, which a lot of people like instead of having that standard camera. So the camera on here, it is a 12 megapixel standard and then a 12 megapixel telephoto. It has 2x optical zoom, and then it shoots in 4K, 24, 30, and 60 FPS with a 7 megapixel selfie camera on the front that also shoots in 1080p 60. Image quality is actually the same as on the XR. It's just that you have that telephoto lens to be able to take those zoom shots, which I definitely prefer, you know, at least, you know, a secondary camera over just one camera. I think it's useful to me. As far as image quality, the telephoto lens does a great job. Like I said, detail is there, dynamic range is there. These older iPhone cameras are actually really good. If you guys check out my comparisons to the 13 Pro that I did, you will actually see image quality is really not that far off. It's actually extremely good. And as far as the video, I think video is super smooth looking. Looks really awesome too. I'll go ahead and let you guys see that. But as far as the image quality, for an older iPhone, I think this still takes very good photos. If you're in good lighting, great. But it's not going to do as good as the newer phones, of course, in the low light. If you put this in a kind of a lower light situation, you will get a grainier and softer photo for sure. Alright guys, here's the video on the XS. See, you got my telephoto lens. Do a little walk around. Now, just like the iPhone XR, this does have an extremely fast chip. We are running iOS 15, and just like with the XR with this Apple A12 chip, I believe this will get the next 4 years of major OS updates easily. So I highly believe that. Now, the A12 chip is again the same as the XR, so we have our HDR Extreme. We can play this, pretty much plays any game at high settings. it does a fantastic job. So if you want, again, another cheap option for gaming, this is going to give you some phenomenal performance here. You do have 64 gigs of internal storage, and then this one has 4 gigs of RAM on here as well. And the performance is just top notch on here. So if you want to game, or if you're just bouncing in and out of applications, whatever you're doing, the phone still feels fast in 2022. It does not feel slow at all. So launching applications, gaming, it is still a very fast phone here. Go ahead and show you the Geekbench scores as well. So it does a fantastic job, so you can go ahead and compare those. It does a really good job with performance. So let's talk about the additional features. This phone has great vibration motor on here as well, very strong. You will definitely be able to hear your phone vibrating, and also stereo speakers on here are top notch as well too. So super strong bass on here as well, as you guys heard. You also have NFC with your Apple Pay, of course, and then Face Unlock works great on here as well. I have no issues. It doesn't feel slower compared to the newer iPhones. It feels just on par with those. And also with the design on here, so it's IP68 dust and water resistant. It really comes down to your personal opinion, which design you like. I really like the iPhones with the more curved edges on here as opposed to the newer ones. I've said this multiple times, but it just feels better in the palm, especially if you're like playing a game for if you're playing a game for long periods of time. The newer iPhones will kind of cut into the hand. And this is probably not a big issue because people have a case on their phone, right, that smooths it out. But if you're, just using your phone bare, yeah, it just feels, the older ones feel better. I just really like how these feel in the hand. They don't kind of leave a mark in your hand. So that's something that I noticed. But the design on here, I think still looks beautiful. It's still a really classy design on here. So I just think this phone has aged extremely well as far as the design goes. Now we need to talk about the battery life, because that's always a huge concern with a lot of iPhone users that go into the refurbished marketplace. So if you buy from Amazon, I know that there's, or it could be if you buy from eBay certified refurbished. So I would go somewhere where it's certified refurbished. If you buy iPhone used from somebody, I would ask them before you buy, you send a message and say, what is the battery health? So we're gonna go check the battery health on this one. And this one is 85%. So you guys remember how I said in the last video that they're not allowed to sell you phones with battery health under 80%. If you get a phone that's under 80%, the battery life is just not going to be good at all. So what you could do is return that, or you could actually replace the battery, which doesn't cost a ton. But again, I would make sure that the battery health is going to be 85, 80% and above, right? Now, battery life on here is actually not that bad. It's pretty good. I'm able to get good screen on time around 5 hours 30 minutes, so almost 6 hours of screen on time. That's pretty good, again, for an older phone like this. So I don't have any major concerns with battery life. I think this will get your average person, if you're not doing heavy gaming, through a full day of use. So you do have on here wireless charging as well as fast charging at 15 watts, and the battery size, just in case you're curious, is 2,658 milliamps. So overall, the iPhone XS is a really great device. I really do like it. Like I said, the real highlights with this device is, yes, it's a little bit smaller than the XR with that 5.8-inch display, right? The XR is 6.1 inches, but it's more compact. So if you have smaller hands, it's just easier to grip and hold. It's just as fast. It has a better display, and you also get that telephoto lens on here as well, which can be useful, I think, to a lot of people. But overall, it's just an excellent phone. I don't really have an issue with this phone at all. Now you guys see why it's my favorite iPhone. I think the display is great. You get that extra camera, unlike the XR and the SE. And it's relatively compact as well too. So even if you want something bigger, you go with the XS Max as well too. It's essentially the same phone with better battery life, right? So that's pretty much it, guys. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one.